Hi guys, welcome to the video. Welcome to Leeds Bradford Airport in the UK, and welcome to this beastie here. This is the Cessna 414AW Chancellor by Flysimware, and it's in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and it's going to be the aircraft for today's video. And today's video was as a result of a comment on the last video I did, where somebody said, hey, why don't you check it out and have a look? And so here we are in Leeds with this little beastie here. Now at this point I'm just going to say huge thanks to those who watched my last video and commented on it for all the support that you guys have given me over the years. It's hugely appreciated, means a lot to me, and there's no words to express the thanks really, but I just need to let you know that it's really appreciated. But in any case, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at this beastie and see what we think. So the Flysimware Chancellor is available from their webpage. And it's got quite a bit of detail about the aircraft. You can get it from Flysimware Sim Market, and it's $39.99, which is pretty much slap bang in the ballpark for a high fidelity add-on in terms of the sim. So you've got lots of details in terms of you can get hold of the manual. The user manuals here tells you about paint kits, etc. So there's all some good stuff on here, but as I say, these two stores, Flysimware and Sim Market, it's available, and it's $39.99. Now, as it says here, you can include or you can add, I should say, the optional PMS 50 or TDS GTN 750, and they can be integrated. Although I've not actually done it myself for this aircraft at this point. But getting rid of that, let's just put that over there. What we're going to do today is we're going to have a look at the outside, the inside, take it for a flight. Now I am mindful that the weather conditions aren't particularly great for showing off the aircraft. In fact, what I might do is just change the weather. We'll go to a preset of clear skies and see how it looks. Yeah, that's better for showing it off, isn't it? So here we are. Resplendent in the sun. As I say, what we're going to do is have a look at the outside, the inside, take it for a flight, and come up with some sort of conclusion. Now, just a little bit about the aircraft. The Chancellor 414 AW is an improved version of the original aircraft, or the original Cessna 414. I'm not entirely sure what all of the changes were that were made, but suffice to say, overall, it's a better performing aircraft than the original one. As you can tell, it's got modern wingtips. I believe it's got more powerful engines and a few other bits and bobs. But it's based on a real aircraft that the developers have access to. I'm not entirely sure whether they own it or whether it's sort of, you know, a friend's, or they've got access, whatever. But in any case, it's actually modelled on a single real-world aircraft. And so they've had full access to the aircraft in terms of being able to make the 3D model, and also have the accurate documentation and all the information that they need. So I'm looking for some great things here. I'm very hopeful. But without further ado, let's have a look at what we've got. So it's not the prettiest aircraft in my mind. I think with this version it ends up with an extended nose, and it does look a bit its mum probably loves it, really, doesn't it? But what we can see is we can see a lovely set of modelling skills being used on the 3D model all round. We'll have a closer look in a moment, but it looks really good from a distance. Very, very nicely done. There's lots of lovely elements, like where the hinges are for the rudder. You can see daylight through them, so obviously a lot of attention to detail has been played into areas such as that. So I'll just go into my other camera mode and we can have a closer look. Okay, so we've come in quite close here, nice and close, so we can have a look. And looking down the wings, all looks very nice from this position. The engines are well modelled. There's a good 3D modelling. There's lots of lovely curves in the right places. The join between the wing and the fuselage is very nicely done. There's no straight lining there that I can see significantly. Good use of PBR textures. You can see the high gloss finish on the top of the wing surface. Very nice metallic effect on the spinner with the aircraft reflection in the spinner. Very nicely done. And quite a high gloss finish on the prop itself here. Hartzell stickers on it, so it's a 3-blade constant speed prop, and you can see some details. I'm not sure how much of this is photo as opposed to, well, I say photo, 2D image as opposed to 3D, but it certainly gives the impression. It's certainly very nice indeed. Coming round, unfortunate element with the textures here. Not quite sure what's going on with this this texture here, but in terms of the shape and the modelling, it's very nice. So over towards the front of the aircraft in this area around here, you've got a lovely set of 3D structure in terms of the beading for the windscreen or the windows. Very nicely done. The panel lines are very nicely done in terms of the modelling. All the latches, etc., in the right places, all looking very good. It's just this very strange element here. Not quite sure what's going on, but nevertheless, let's have a look at the gear. Okay, so as we come close into the gear, we can see that it's got very nice 3D modelling and texturing. I love the little bits of chipped paint off the bottom of the oleo leg here, and round where the brake pins are, or the pistons are for the brake pads. The disc itself looks very, very nice. Got varying sort of texture and artwork on it, and then the 3D modelling going into the nuts and bolts inside. Very convincing in terms of both the appearance and the coloration in terms of the oleo. Good use of PBR. Nice and grubby. I do like to see a grubby aircraft because in real life they're not the cleanest of things down here. And again, on the inside of the undercarriage door here, you can see a lot of paint wear and tear. Very nicely done. If you just spin round, we'll go towards the nose gear, see what we think of that. Ooh, a little bit too far. And same sort of thing. As you look at it, very nicely modelled in terms of the 3D modelling. All the usual aerials in the right places along the bottom of the fuselage underside, and it's got a nice used look to it in terms of the texture. It's very nicely done. Very nice to see the different sort of matte effects as opposed to the satin and gloss. Nice taxi light up here on the nose, and all the linkages are really well done. You know, this sort of hollowed out effect here that we get. Obviously, it's part of it's to reduce the weight in terms of the aircraft, whilst or the undercarriage, whilst not giving away too much in terms of strength. But it'd be all too easy to not model that, or to just have some sort of 2D texture, which is, it's very nice to see the attention to detail. Again, the same sort of thing. The bolts are hexagonal, very, very fine sort of construction around this part, just underneath the nose light. Very good detail indeed. Very nicely done. As we come around to the wingtips, you can see that it's really well shaped. A couple of little bits of straight lining here, nothing too dramatic though. Not going to see it in general use of the aircraft. Navigation light, nice clear cover here, and also the strobe's clear cover. Static wicks present and correct, all very nicely done. And then you've got kind of an effect under the wing where it doesn't look flat. It looks like it's been made of a material where there's been some give in that material. Coming back round to the rear of the aircraft where the tail is. Again, same sort of thing, all the static wicks are present and correct. Texturing and paintwork is very, very nice indeed. And as we come round to the trailing edge, you can see the level of detail that's gone into it. Text is pretty much, or the textures I should say, are pretty much legible. It's only when you get stupid close you can start to see it blur up a bit. But the panel lines are still good. And the shaping, it has to be said, around the sort of wing root area, very, very good. Down into the belly. Very nicely done. Just a few little bits like this area here where the sort of the join of the textures and the panels just looks a bit weird. But the flip side to that, as you'll notice up here, I've got quite a nice frames per second, 50 odd frames per second this close in. But as I say, very nice model. Very nice to look at, and resplendent in this red, white and sort of gold livery. So let's pop inside and see what we think in there. So into the cockpit here we come, and very nice bit of 3D modelling in here, it has to be said. It's not perfect, but it is to a very nice standard, and I have to say overall I do like it. We'll just get rid of those for the moment so we get a better view of the panel, etc. There's a few clickable bits in here, so this sort of glove box down here, there's nothing in it is clickable, which I think is a shame. It would have been nice to have had something like the iPad in there, but we do have the ubiquitous iPad EFB, and we'll just mention that whilst we're here before we go through the 3D modelling in fact. So you can stick a lot of the aircraft tie downs etc through here. There's a few other bits, so You can put the GPU on, or not bother with that because it's noisy in the background. You can set an aircraft state, control locks as well. You can have the control locks in. Very good idea not to try to take off with a rudder lock in, so always look at this before you take off, because otherwise you could have a bit of a moment. You can open loads of doors. It's pretty much the usual fare for add-ons these days, which is, you know, it's nice to see. Let's just quickly pop out and have a look at what it looks like with everything in situ. You know what, let's just do this, it's easier. As you can see, everything's opened up, fully bearing itself to the world. We've got things like the intake blanks in, various tie downs in situ. So if you want for sort of waking your aircraft up from the cold and dark and trying to go through the whole thing as if it was real life, there's plenty to keep you occupied here. So we'll just pop back in and we'll come here and we'll just close all those, because at the end of the day, nice animations. Actually, I'll just is it that one? Yeah, nice animations. In fact, I'm just wondering if this texture here is in relation to the ones that were on the outside that wasn't the greatest. But having said that, you've all got all the maintenance things that you can do here. Now, unlike, say, the A2A Comanche, you don't actually do maintenance. This is more just the aesthetics of it. But it is very nice. And then there's further options in terms of the tablet itself. We'll just take all of these off while we are here so we don't forget and try and take off with them. You can have a look at the weather information for where you are, which is very nice, very handy indeed, particularly with the relative wind. You've then got your loading, so you can load up the aircraft as you see fit. The thing you've got to be aware of with this is it's quite a long aircraft, so it's very easy to have a very rear set C of G, and in fact if you load it badly, you can end up with a C of G right at the back, and then when you come to have a look at the aircraft, out of C of G, or centre of gravity, just to clarify that. So we'll just get rid of this lot, because we're not going to muck around with that. But it does change the handling significantly in the aircraft, which is nice to see. You can see the visual representation of where your centre of gravity is compared to the forward and aft limits. Have a look at what fuel you've got, fill the tanks to whatever you need, and then you've got your limitations here. So you've got your fuel with your max fuel payload, max payload, etc. So it's a very nice setup. And then finally you've got checklists. The checklists, they do my head in a little bit, I'll be honest. You can do the exterior walk around checklist if you wish. And it's very nice to do that, and you can do things like open the doors. Let's pop back inside. So you can do the walk around, but it's also got the checklist here. One of the only things that I found with the checklist is sometimes what will happen is you'll start doing something. It's not interactive, so every time you click on something, it just takes you back to that first menu, which is it's okay. It's just a case of leaving it here and then reading through it. So, but I'm not gonna muck around with checklists today. Cessnas aren't the most complex aircraft in the world, but we'll just pop back to this page, and then this little button up here gets rid of it. So back to the 3D modelling in the cockpit then. It's been done to a very nice standard, and there's lots of nice little tricks. You can see also over here, you can see like fingerprints, smudged fingerprints on the glass. Nice to see that sort of thing. In fact, the glass in certain lighting conditions, you can see all the scratches and all the sort of marks all over it, which is really great to see. Actually, you can see some of them here. Very, very nice, very immersive, rather than just seeing this outside. You've got this sort of real life effect to it. So in terms of 3D modelling, big bits first. Let's look at things like windows, screws in situ. Little things though make a big difference. So having 3D screws, for example, is something where you turn around and look at it, and the complexity of this section down here with all of the hinges, very good. It does open, so if you click that and then you can pop it open. Nice noise. Hinges have been done very well if you look at the animation on the hinges. Only weird thing here is you've got this line here, so I'm not sure if this is a texturing or issue. Let me just... Yeah, it's the edge of the glass look. So yeah, around here it doesn't look particularly great, but having said that, from where you're normally sat here, it's not something that's noticeable. It's just me being uber picky. And we'll just close that because we don't want it to cause a problem with pressurization. It is a pressurized aircraft. It's capable of going up many flight levels. We'll just reset our view. And the pressurization systems down here is very, very simple indeed. But as you can see, things like the pedals, very nicely done, very nice shaping, lovely texturing on it. It does look metallic. Likewise, the controls all have different noises. Although these, yeah, the mixture has noise. But there's nothing for these, which is a bit of a shame. But other switches, they have different noises. If it's the same sort of switch, it has the same sort of noises, so nicely modelled with the sound as well. And then coming around looking at the seats look quite convincing. I don't think that the texturing is quite to the same level as the TDM 850 I looked at the other day, but it is very nice. It does stand up to close inspection, and I have to say, yeah, they've done a nice job. Personally, I wouldn't like to try and do a sheepskin type texture, but we do have the nice 1970s carpets down here, which do look very good. And again, the footboard down here, you can see where it's got dents, marks, etc. on it, so it's very nicely done indeed. 3D modelling of the controls is very nice. You can see that they've got good shape and good function. And if we just move this out of the way, you'll also see that the text is differing, so the textures used for the text aren't all the same in terms of the colouring, so you can see where it's got more tear and less wear and tear and more wear and tear, I should say. Edges of panels where the paint's been worn off, really nicely done. All in all, very nicely done. I'm very happy with that. I'll just move us over this way a bit because it will allow us to see the 3D modelling in terms of depth. You can see that the instruments do have a good appearance in terms of depth. Obviously, when we're staring at it front on, you obviously don't see a lot of this, but you can see the reflections on the glazing is very nice. The depth with the multiple layers with the needles actually look 3D, not just like a 2D needle whizzing round. They do look 3D in their own right. And as I say, you can have the an aftermarket GTN 750. I've still got the default, I think it the working title, GNS 530, which is a very decent bit of nav kit. It's just a case of getting used to using it. But as I say, coming around looking at the instruments, they all look very, very nicely done. The HSI particularly very nicely done. We'll get to the Autopilot. The Autopilot's a fun little thing to play with. It does have a couple of oddities which we will mention as we go. And then you've got your old school 6-pack here. Interesting DME indications down here. We might have a look at that later. And then looking at the texturing as well and the shaping. A little bit of straight lining in some of the 3D modelling, but to be expected really because we're uber close to it. But the texturing for this sort of grainy vinyl, whatever it is, really, really nicely done. Again, looking at the canopy areas, really well done. And all of the textures hold up to close inspection. There's no fuzziness on the altimeter, for example. You can see the altitude reporting electronic really clear. And so overall, yeah, really nice textures, really nice modelling overall. So got to be happy with that. We'll just have a quick peer into the back. There's a few bits in here that are interactive. So the tables, for example, come out. Again, nice noises. Don't be stood in front of that table; it's going to take your head off. So a bit ferocious. Oh, dearie, dearie me. Nice. Nice cushion, yeah, We'll have a look at that, yeah. Coming all the way down to the back. This I find weird. I don't quite know what's going on here. This 2D picture of the front of the aircraft. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but never mind. Down here you can see all the labelling is clear, 3D modelling again. And, you know, to be honest, they've paid a lot of attention to areas that you're not generally going to look in the aircraft. Nice modelling of the oval windows. And, yeah, overall really, really nicely done. Just go forwards a little bit. Mind the killer table. Oh, jeez, that just... Yeah, we'll get rid of that. And then we've got the door here with its various mechanical functions where you can muck around with it. Unlock things, lower it, raise it, etc. Very nice if you want to get your... there we go, found it. Oh, do you like the animation of the steps? Don't know if you saw that, but the animation of the steps, how they kind of pop out. Yeah. Yeah, nice. Oh, yeah, that's very nice. That animation as a whole, very, very nicely done. Oh, there we go. Managed to find the click spot. Just best lock that. Nice green indicator there and there to show it's all locked up and secure. Very, very nicely done. And I'm assuming this is going to be a switch for the entry point. But yeah, overall, very, very nicely done. Let's just pop back to the front. So the next thing we're going to talk about briefly is going to be systems modelling. It's got a pretty high fidelity in terms of system modelling, which is what you'd expect in terms of the fact they have access to the real aircraft. So, you know, things like circuit breakers do work. And therefore you can play with what happens with certain systems failing. This is a bit of a pain in Simland. I'm sure it's probably not so much of a pain in the real world, but trying to see indications and what's under here, bit of a pain. But at the end of the day, that's what it's like in real life. But this is all predominantly electrical systems on this side. On the left, then we've got cabin pressure and oxygen, cabin pressurization and oxygen levels here, along with the suction for the engines left and right. Your very basically pressurization. You set the altitude you're going to fly at here, and then you allow, make sure it's on pressurize, and it will pressurize to that altitude as you climb, and depressurize will obviously get rid of it. And then if you wanted to dump it, so you want to get rid of the pressurization quickly, you just pull that there. All pretty straightforward and nice and simple. Air conditioning on the right hand side, so you can have it colder, hotter, whatever. This is a very nice layout in many respects, and you can see that graphically it's very nice. You can see the parallax error here where we've got the slip indicator of the ball between the white lines here, and then over here it looks like it's slightly off to the right, but actually that's just because it's parallax error, which is really nicely done. You've got a carrot salad here in terms of cautions and warnings. As I say, you've got a very interesting altitude alert system and autopilot system. Quite good fun to play with. And then down here you've got probably for me one of the weirdest weirdest lighting panels I've ever seen, where you can control the intensity. It's kind of cool, but it does scream sort of 70s, 60s, 70s, whatever. Flaps are a bit of a pain, just purely out of the fact you can't see the flap indicator from the left seat. But let's just pop the cabin air in. But it's a turbocharged aircraft, so you've got a little bit of information here. It does affect the behaviour of the aircraft. We may mention turbos in a bit. I haven't done a video on turbos actually. I probably ought to. As I said in my previous video, I've done constant speed props, fixed shaft turbines, free power turbines, but I haven't done anything relating to turbochargers and engines. So there's an idea. I might do that. But then you've got your fuel quantity and your backup instruments over here. Your tachograph, well, your DATCOM, and then a prop de-ice indicator as well. And again, if you look down here, you can see the textures on these pedals are just lovely, the sort of wear and tear. I love it when an aircraft has that air of wear and tear to it. Really, really nice. Now without further ado, let's get this thing fired up and we can go and take it for a bit of a flight. So it's pretty easy to start. What I might do is just get the GPU out. Bloop. That there. We'll put the GPU on. And then, as you can see, we've now got power from the GPU because our master switch is off. So we'll put our master switch on and we'll put the Avionics on. Is that it? Yeah, here we go. Now one of the things to note with this aircraft is that compared to VLOC or VOR localizer, the needle position where it's pointing doesn't mean anything with GPS. So let's just get rid of that because it's flashing away. Swap it onto GPS. The direction that you've got this pointing doesn't care. It won't automatically link to the GNS 530. And you can see that when we go airborne, you'll see that actually if you wanted to get that situational awareness, you need to turn this yourself. It doesn't change or affect the navigation. It will, at the end of the day, it will just follow this white line. That's all it's interested in doing, is following the white line, and it will do that regardless of what direction this yellow needle is pointing. It will show you your lateral deviation with the bar, so left and right. It will show you that lateral deviation, but it won't auto-slave itself to the GNS 530, which makes it quite fun, I suppose, in many respects. And we're going to be going off runway 32, so it's probably about there for the moment. We'll just pop that there. And then we'll mention, we're going to set up the autopilot whilst we're here and have a quick comment regarding that. So let's just move those out of the way. So the autopilot controls are a combination of this setup down here and this panel here. So when you turn the you've obviously got your damper switch there, which is absolutely fine, and then you've got your autopilot switch, and you'll notice that this amber light comes on here, and at the moment it's got the flight director selected but no actual mode for vertical or horizontal navigation. But this button here doesn't do anything because it's not a button, it's just an indicator that your autopilot is on. You can turn things like the flight director on and off individually, so we can pop it on, we can pop it off, and we can set heading, for example, and it will try and steer to the heading. Take the heading off and it will just go back to its default position, etc. And then you've got the choice to switch between nav 1 and nav 2 here. Now this is where it's a little bit interesting. This is nav 2 down here, and then com 1 and com 2, or sorry, com 2 and ADF are over here. So it's quite an interesting setup, and then you've got your transponder over here, which is another sort of thing. I haven't seen one of these before either, but this is quite fascinating. And it's got a very antiquated switch thing. These little flippers here, let's see if I can get a closer view for you. These little flippers here move as you move the digits. Now quite how we're going to get to 80,000 feet, I don't really know. We're not going to. We're going to go to 11,000 feet. We're going to ignore the altitude on the departure, but this is where it's quite cool. So we can set it up quite readily. It's just a case of remembering that the autopilot on-off is there. I have considered, but too lazy to get round to setting a button for that, just so that I know what I'm doing with regards to it. But nonetheless, you've got a nice little indicator for your mode selector here. But the altitude alert and the leveling system to couple your vertical profile to your altitude is this little button here. So you click it to arm it, and as long as you're more than, I think it's 300 feet above or below the altitude that you're trying to capture, it will capture it. So you set yourself up in a climb, and this will work. The only problem is it won't work if you have any other form of vertical mode enabled, i.e. altitude. So altitude is literally what it says on the tin. It will just hold you at the altitude. Whatever altitude you are at when you press that button, the aircraft will then hold that altitude. And then you can climb with regards to the position of the nose or vertical speed using this little wheel down here. Get that out of the way for pitch. So basically what you can do is use the autopilot to control the pitch, and by controlling the pitch you control your vertical speed. If you have anything such as altitude on, this system can't really cope with it. So what you can do is you can arm it and say, I'm going to go to 11,000 feet. Boom, nailed it, happy with that. And just leave the alt off, we're not interested in that. All we're going to do really is play around with it as we depart. And we'll have a look at it and see what it's like as a system. So I think the pressure at the moment is 101. Let me just have a look up here actually. The weather here, variable cav OK, -1 to -3, 1017. So let's see what we've got here. In fact, actually the sim's not the real world weather, is it? So let's just press B, because I think it's on 1013, which it is. We haven't got real world weather today, but never mind. Now we're going to mention a couple of things when we go through the aircraft in terms of instrumentation, but this one over here is a fuel computer. I'll be brutally honest, I haven't used it, and I'm not 100% entirely sure how to use this system. It is in the manual. I will mention at this point the manual is actually very, very good, but it's also important to read it to get the full information about the aircraft. The manual can be downloaded from the website. This weather radar isn't active in terms of, I think it's nothing to do with the aircraft. I think it's more to do with the sim, i.e. Microsoft Flight Simulator doesn't really allow for weather radars. You can turn it on and you get an impression of the radar, but as I said, I think it's a bit limited more by the sim than anything else. But overall, the cabin, the cockpit is a very nicely modelled thing. Virtually everything is implemented. I think there's a couple of switches where it's not, so these switches down here, they're not even labelled. So I have to say, overall, in terms of the cockpit and the cabin, and my cameras were gone all over the place. Jeez, what's going on? Very, very nice indeed. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this thing started. It's pretty standard fare for most aircraft of this type. We're going to cheat though. We're not going to do the full thing. We're just going to go like this. We're just going to make sure we've got our fuel tanks on. And so what is it doing there? And we'll at this point we'll start the right engine with the GPU on. So magnetos for the right are on. We will prime the right hand engine. Make sure we've got the throttles cracked slightly open as well, and then we'll just give it an oomph, see if it starts. There we go. Took a bit of going. Right hand generator can go on. Check our electrics. Sorry, right hand altimeter can go on. Alternator, not altimeter, alternator can go on. And we've got good battery voltage, and there we go. Just under 29, 30, 28. That's the current draw. Right alternator and left alternator's off at the moment. So I'm quite happy that we can disconnect our GPU, send that away, get rid of this for the moment. And the sounds are nice. You can hear the prop sounds change as you look around. Very nice indeed. So let's get the left-hand engine started as well now. I should have said clear prop so that the imaginary people could hear me. As I say, let's get this engine started. So we've got the fuel on. Prime it. Make sure we've got the magnetos on. Press and hold the button. There we go. And then we can pop the alternator on. We should see the alternator. Happy days. We were very naughty. We didn't have our nav lights on, but what we'll do is we'll turn everything on, and we can have a quick look at the nav lights, etc. from outside. We'll also stick the heaters on whilst we're here. So let's just pop outside. And there we go. All lit up like a Christmas tree. Actually, that's interesting. I hadn't extended the lights, the landing lights, so you could see them actually moving. The light kind of moving as the lights extended. Very, very cool. That did like that. But yeah, all lights are present and correct. Strobe light. You just see the green light. In fact, I'm just going to pop in quickly. Oh, this is going to do me head in that it's doing that. Whatever it is it's doing it. And let's just turn that one and that one off. Pop back outside. One of my pet hates is these lights here are only visible from certain positions. So in a lot of sims, you can still see the green light all the way around here, which, yeah, probably shouldn't. White light, it's not very visible, but it's got a little strobe in it. Very nicely done. Sounds very nice with the engines running as we move around. They are directional, so you've got slightly higher pitch, slightly chuggier here from the exhaust. Very nice indeed. Oh, you are going to do my head in. You are genuinely going to do my head in with that. So let's stick stage of flap down. Stick our taxi light on. And let's go on out to the runway and see what we think. Let's just have a quick look for where the runway is actually. And we're going to go out and we're going to backtrack 3-2. So it brakes off. First chance to assess the handling. Positive nose wheel steering. Autopilot off. Yeah, steering's really nice. We'll just cut under this van because we can. It's not real. Let's not get too excited about things. So the ground handling's very nice, very direct, very positive. We'll just take a bit of power off the engines. We're going to go charging onto a runway, so doing our light simulator. We'll chuck that on. Make sure we've got first stage of flap selected. Can't see the indicator though, that's the problem. Look down here, can't actually see it. Let's scoot out. Obviously we've checked left and right for the traffic. Make sure nothing's going to kill us. Leeds Bradford, it's worth having a look on YouTube. Some of the aircraft landings in crosswinds here, because of the slope and the undulations of the runway. Wow. Some of them, if you look at the windy days, somebody, it's one of these YouTube channels, several people have done them, I think, with the videos at Leeds Bradford, but my God, some of the landings are proper skill. Very nice indeed. Of course, one of the advantages you've got with it being a twin prop is you can do really tight turns if you use a combination of your wheels, your brakes, your steering and your throttle. Look at that. For years, Microsoft Flight Simulator, the FSX and previously, didn't have undulating runways, and it was one of the best things that they've done, in my opinion, is these undulating runways. We're not quite straight on, but never mind. You can see there's a minimum RPM below which your hydraulic pumps don't work, and your hydraulic pumps, you only really need them for the gear more than anything else. None of the controls are hydraulically powered that I'm aware of. But yeah, so we'll just set ourselves a little bit of power. Make sure these are up. And it's similar to red, green, blue. We've got red, green, blue. What I will do actually, very naughty doing this on the tarmac, but just check we've got heading. We'll put it into heading mode so we can get that going away, and then we can take off. Introduce the power all the way through, and it's turbocharged engine, so we just need to monitor the needles as we come through. Full power, and this thing lifts off very nicely. Whoa, a bit too nicely. One of my problems that I do have with this aircraft is the trim. Let's settle ourselves down a little bit, shall we? Let's settle ourselves down a bit. I will mention the trim in a bit. The trim is very coarse is the best way to describe it. It's very, very coarse indeed. So yeah, that wasn't the greatest takeoff in the world, was it? I'm assuming it's human error, and I got all carried away and didn't set my trim for takeoff. But there we go. Yeah, gears up. And we're now starting to accelerate nicely. Flaps up. And my hand flying, because I'm not really paying attention, I'm trying to talk as much as I am hand fly, isn't particularly great. We don't need 20 degrees nose up, because otherwise we're going to go too slow. And what I will do is I'll bring us round to the left, and then I will demonstrate the issue with the trim. So let me try and just get to a stage where we're fairly stable. Trim down, trim down, trim down, trim down. Whoa, big lump. Trim up. So let's hold it stable. Take the trim, take the trim, take the trim. What happens is you do two or three clicks of the trim, and then it's almost like it accelerates, and it would just do that, and it will take a big chunk rather than little steps. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with the trim. I do find the trim in pitch to be a bit of a handful, but nonetheless, let's get on to onto track and where we're going. So we just come round to the left, and what we're going to do now is click ourselves onto nav and engage the autopilot. And what it's going to do now is it's going to follow the nav route, and then I'm not quite sure why we're going roaring downhill, but it's going to try and intercept this. Now, we were fairly close to it, and so the behaviour sometimes can be a little bit bizarre. We're turning very, very significantly to the left to regain this very slight deviation from our track. And it's almost like it's assuming it's got to turn a good 60 degrees off, and then it will no doubt in a moment start to turn itself back in. Let's see what it does. I'm intrigued. Here we've got a very gradual start of a turn there. It's thinking about it. Here we go. It's just going to turn itself right. So its angle that it intercepts at is very, very, very sort of significant. It's not a shallow angle, it's a very steep angle it's intercepting that at, which I find quite surreal, because most aircraft systems wouldn't be comfortable with that. But that very harsh transition round to the left, very weird. So we're climbing at quite high speed at the moment in terms of vertical speed. What we can do is we can change that down here using this little pitch trim control here. So if you click it forwards, it lowers the nose and it increases the speed. And so we should see that the speed is going to rise as we muck around with this. It's not going to have a great day out whilst we're careering along in a corner in a turn. But let's see what we get, and you can see the speed's increasing. So we've dropped the pitch in effect. Speed's increasing, so we still want to climb. So let's trim the nose to pitch up a bit more, and you can see that our vertical speed has increased. Our airspeed's going to decrease. What we're going to do is be a little bit more sensitive to the engines actually, and just bring them back to a more humane level. And I love the out of sync sound for the engines, really nicely done. Let's get them into and then we will push prop sync on, and we'll keep our climb going. So yeah, the navigation system is a fascinating thing because of the combination of the old tech parts that we've got here. And this is one of the things I would highlight at this point, is that the aircraft is old school, so it's steam gauges, things like, you'll notice that we are tracking correctly, and as I mentioned, you have to manually adjust this if you want your yellow course bar to actually reflect what you want. So in effect you're going, because the deviation bar is in line, you're on track, and you can see on the GNS 530 we're on track, but it just feels a bit weird because it's not the way that the aircraft's pointing. So let's just reset that there, and that feels a bit more, sensible, really, is the best way to describe it. We're only climbing at 500 feet a minute, so we will pitch the nose up a bit more and see what we get. We'll try and aim for about 1,000 feet a minute. There we go. A little bit more maybe. There we go. And we'll start to make our way skywards. So, just as we climb, we're going to have a little consideration of a few bits. The instrumentation and navigation stuff is absolutely brilliant. It's really, really nicely done. It's quirky, it's going to keep your attention because there's not a lot of automatics for you. As you can see, your only vertical mode really is manually adjusting your vertical speed / nose attitude and altitude hold, and beyond that you haven't got anything. And you need to make sure that when you're using this system, you set your altitude, you arm it, and then once it's armed it goes yellow, and then when it gets to the altitude that you've selected, it will start to come up with indications here whether you're high, on target or low, and then you'll also get a warning in terms of an altitude alert up here. So these two little lights, left hand one autopilot off and the right hand one altitude alert. So what altitude are we coming up to? Let's just drop this down a bit. Now, because of the way it's going to work, we've only got, we just go to 10,000, so it's only got 1,000 feet to go, and we'll hear the marker for altitude alert. As you see, we're turning on to our new track here. Over on the 530 you can see it better, but obviously it hasn't changed our nice yellow needle, so we're slightly right, left of track, which you can see here. We are left of track, but this is where it comes to the, you heard the C chord there for the 1,000 feet to go, and I'll just put that like that just so we've got some indication as to what's going on. Okay, and then we can bring our heading round as well. Just so that we're kind of keeping ourselves with some sort of semblance of normality. In effect, what's happening is that you're retaining your situational awareness as to where the airway is by having this, and your location relative to the airway. So that's where we're going, and it's not strictly correct, because obviously the element of it is that although you'd have a bearing, you could take that off the chart. So what would our bearing be here? So ground speed, distance, so that's our track, direct track 035, so you would set that to 035 to get your true indication as to where you are relative to your heading and your track. So fascinating little system to set up. You'll see now we've got a green light here. We did have an amber light, we've now got a green light, and we're within 20 feet, and now it's come on with the green light down here that says it's coupled. So it is quite a funky system. One of the things with systems of this age, I always consider that they're not the most reliable systems in the world, they're not the easiest to use, so that gives you a little bit of character to the aircraft, makes it a bit more enjoyable, and you require a little bit more skill to fly it than just, like an Airbus where you punch in your, once you punched in your details into your MAG, your MCDU, You know, press a couple of auto buttons and away you go. This takes a little bit more skill, including, dare I say it, operating a GNS 530. I know the GTN 750 is very nice, but even that simplifies this quite a lot. So if you want to challenge yourself, this is a great aircraft to do it in. So what we're going to do now is have a look at the handling in terms of slow speed handling. We'll just mention this instrument here in terms of your airspeed indicator. The blue line here is the best single engine climb speed. So if you're down to one engine, this is the best. Flying at this speed will get you the best rate of climb. Now it's worth pointing out, in a twin-engined aircraft, piston aircraft, sometimes it won't be a climb at all. So, you know, sometimes flying at this speed, all it will mean is that you just descend less quickly. But quite often you'll find that you know, single-engine aircraft at its best climb speed, twin-engined aircraft may have a best climb speed where it only manages 100 feet a minute climb, and that's all you're going to get out of it. And I flew this the other day, heavy laden, and even flying at a blue line speed, it didn't want to climb. It wasn't very happy with me. Likewise, down here you've got the red line. The red line is the minimum control speed single engine. So that is the minimum control speed at which you can maintain level flight and control of your aircraft. You're allowed, I think it's 5 degrees roll, so dipping your wing into the way the aircraft wants to, against the direction the aircraft wants to turn. So we'll have a look at that in amongst our speeds, and we'll see how the handling is. So let me just reset my view. Don't want that view because that's garbage. And you can see we're getting 48-50 frames a minute, but we've got no clouds in. So shall we introduce some more clouds and see what happens? Yeah, let's introduce some clouds. Let's get some clouds. We'll have some scattered clouds. Well, that's pretty, isn't it? And it's maintaining a decent frame rate. In fact, actually, it's slightly better than without clouds. I wonder if that's because of the view distance. But yeah, very pretty. Look at the reflections on the instruments now with this lighting change. Really, really attractive. Very, very nice indeed. In fact, this is the problem with it being in a sim. Our lighting switches are behind here, so we'll leave those well alone, but you get the picture. Very, very nice indeed. So, right, so let's have a quick look at some aircraft handling then. It flies quite quickly. It's not a slouch by any stretch of the imagination. It's got quite a good ceiling. It can go up to many flight levels. But one of the things that, with this sort of aircraft, one of the things that I'm keen to understand is the handling aspects of it. So what we'll do is we'll take it off Autopilot. I've probably got a button set somewhere for it, but I can't remember what it is. And we'll have a look at the handling. Now, it's very nice to hand fly, I have to be honest. The only reservation I have is with the trim. So pitch trim, as I say, it seems to be slowly, 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 and then it jumps, which can make trimming very, very difficult. So just in a gentle turns left to right, trying to make sure I keep the ball in the middle, because you do need to use your feet with these aircraft. Very, very nice indeed. Looks stunning, the sim, really, doesn't it? But you can see across the panel the reflection of the clouds moving. Absolutely beautiful. We'll bring the power off because we're going to do some slow speed handling. Ignore the gear warning. That horn's just to let you know that you've got low power set without your gear down. It's assuming that you're going to try and land. We're not, but I'm just ignoring the gear. You can see that this feeble little light here is telling us our autopilot's off. It's not the most amazing thing, is it? So we'll get the speed down a bit, and then what we'll do is we'll choose a cloud or an area where we can have a look and see if it's got adverse yaw. And we'll use this one that's literally going to be above the attitude indicator there. So this cloud here, that's going to be our indicator for adverse yaw. Let's just try and trim the aircraft. Trimmy, trim, 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 trimmy, trimmy, trim, 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 trim. there is an element, it could just be me being an idiot. Quite generally the case. Right, so we're going to roll left, and if it's got adverse yaw, we'd expect to see the nose veer right. So nose. It does have adverse yaw. I'm not convinced that if you just do a single turn or a single. So let's see which way the nose goes. It does go right initially. It's got adverse yaw modelled into it, which is very nice. In terms of the hands-free stability, it's quite a stable aircraft. So let's just trim it out. Oh God! So I can leave it. I've got hands off now. This is just trimmed into a turn. It's going round, and it's going to go round forever by the looks of things, which is very nice to see. It's got no intent of righting itself though, so it's got neutral stability in terms of roll. It's got positive stability in terms of pitch, so if I disturb it, stick the nose down, I'd expect the aircraft to gain speed and the nose to pitch up, which it is doing. And then we'll see if it goes up, slows down, speed reduces, nose starts to drop again. We're going pretty slow though, to be honest, so we've got to be careful we're not going to stall. And it's probably going to go through 3 or 4 of these oscillations, but at some point it should figure out where it is in terms of the cycle. So it's got a very long period for its pitch stability. So roll stability we found to be neutral, generally speaking. It doesn't really want to recover from it, but it also doesn't want to go into a spiral dive, which is nice. Pitch stability is good, but it takes quite a long time in terms of period, and then yaw stability generally with an aircraft tends to be quite good. So if I put some yaw in, bounces around 2 or 3 times. It's got very strong yaw stability, which is what we would expect. So let's start to have a look at the slower speed stuff now. Now I tried this earlier on today, and the stall wasn't anything of note. It just kind of waffled itself down. It just sort of mushy. It wasn't a particularly fast rate of descent. I mean, some aircraft, if they're particularly stable, they won't roll, they won't deviate at all. They will just stall warning, first sign of the stall coming in. You've got a rumble as well, which is really nice. I like that. Then you've got the fluttering of the controls, again really nice, given the fact you haven't got any tactile information in the sim other than the pitch control, and the elevator is now fully back, and as you can see the nose is dropping gently. We've got an increased rate of descent, and that's your stall. That's it, fully stalled, which for me I'm not entirely convinced, I'll be honest. I haven't flown a 414, it may be accurate, it may not be, but the sim's not doing anything. In fact, it's almost at what are we at, 72 knots. We're varying between 200 feet and 600, 700 feet a minute rate of descent. So let's put some power on, remove the cores, we'll put a stage of flap down, see what happens with that, bring the power back again. Speed will probably come off slightly quicker now because of the flap, causing a little bit of extra drag in addition to its lift. Pitching up, pitching up, pitching up, pitching up. Rumbles come in. Again, same thing. It's just slowly, gradually dropping the nose. It's not doing anything to say, you know, I've stalled, I'm in a really bad way. So, power back on. Careful you don't pull back into another stall. Put the flaps away. And so, in that respect, I'm not entirely convinced about the flight modelling, I'll be honest, because I think it should have done something a little bit more dramatic than just wallowing down wings level, and in fact still had control of. If I just put us back into it again, it's not going to take a lot, but let's pull the nose up just to exacerbate it a bit more quickly. Even as we come into the stall, I've still got roll control up. It's got no intention of chucking me out of the sky at all. So yeah, the other thing we need to look at is we need to look at the red line speed, which is the I can't remember if this aircraft is... So basically the red line speed is the speed at which below that speed, with maximum power on one engine and the other engine feathered, you are not able to maintain a straight flight path. So you're allowed about 5 degrees roll into the live engine, which we've got now, a little bit less maybe. Got loads of right booting to keep straight. Trying to make sure that the slip indicator is not as relevant as the turn indicator really. Just need to make sure we're not turning. And at the red line, she's just about going. If I pull the nose up, she's going to want to do something, hopefully. Not really. She's not really doing anything. Very, very placid aircraft to fly this thing. And then what we can do is, you can see that we're going to accelerate to our blue line speed, and we'll have a look at whether the blue line speed is relevant, I suppose is the best way to describe it. Let's just accelerate ourselves with the other engine a bit quicker to get there, rather than spending all day. Right. At blue line speed, what we're going to do is chop one power lever, leave the other one at maximum, and we're just going to see what rate of climb we get if we maintain blue line speed, which should be our best rate of climb, single engine. So pitch your nose down until we accelerate to get to blue line speed, and you can see at the moment we're descending at 400 feet a minute. Let's just try and hold it on blue line speed. If we go too slow, we pitch down. If we go too fast, we pitch up. But one of the things you've got to bear in mind is that we're very draggy with so much rudder kicked in. And yeah, we're not climbing. And are we going to climb? Yeah, we're going to just about manage to climb. No, we've gone too slow again. Down to blue line speed again. Let's see if we can actually get a climb out of this thing. And I'll be honest, this is realistic. If you've got a pretty heavy aircraft, or some twins just can't climb on a single engine. Right, so maintaining blue line, and we're managing to get to level. As the blue line, as we just start to increase, we can allow to pitch back a little bit. And yeah, we're level at best. We're level at best. Right. Let's have enough of that. Whoever's in the aircraft with me now would be feeling violently ill from all this shenanigans playing around. So yeah, I think in terms of handling, it's kind of a mixed bag. It's very, very stable. It's not going to do anything to spit you out the air or kill you at all quickly. Let's see if we can do... let's do a direct to. Where's nearest? Can we do nearest on here? No, I haven't got a clue how to do this. Oh, here we go. 7.9 miles away, 312. It can be quite a sprightly aircraft, to be honest. It's got some nice traits to it. And what is it we're looking at? EGXZ. I don't know what that is. But it's only 7 miles away. In fact, it's 0.5 miles away. 274 is going down the left-hand side. Go back to our XZ, 1.1 miles away, 20. So we're just going past it now. So why don't we play silly games and put the gear down. full flap, see if we can brake the aircraft. We'll see if we can get down there nice and quick. And this, whatever EGXZ is 1.3 miles away on 158. So let's see if we can just burst out the bottom of the clouds and figure out what it is. I don't think it's going to be a big field if it's XZ. And here we come, roaring down through the cloud. Horrendously dangerous. Hopefully we don't smear ourselves into the ground. Oh, there it is. It's got puppies. Let's have a quick look and see what we've got. 1-3. God, this weather's awful, isn't it? Look at this. Right, I'm going to just lift a stage of flap actually, because we don't need to be on full flap at this point. So if we do 130, that's the reciprocal of where we're potentially going to look at landing. In fact, bring ourselves round. We'll chop the left-hand engine. Put plenty of power into the right-hand engine. Just make sure the gear, bring the gear up, reduce the drag for the moment until we get back round to this airfield. Right. Let's have a bit of a play and see if we can get ourselves down. That doesn't look like it's the longest runway, does it? So let's bring ourselves around here. It's an old military airfield, looking at the bays there. What's that, about 200, is it? Yeah, 200, so 02 is the reciprocal. Now we are descending because we're single engine, so we're going to have to time our turn back in. We're going to turn to the left because we're automatically wanting to turn left anyway, but I'm just conscious of the altitude at this point now, because as we turn we're going to start to lose a bit of height anyway during the turn. Hopefully we've gone extended far enough downhill, downwind, downhill, downwind. Let's bring it back round. Just watching the speed, because when we turn we're more likely to induce a... Oh, we're very close in. Gear down. Very close in. Full flap. We're quick. I think we're going to struggle with this. Stuka dive bomb approach. Very unprofessional. This is exactly how not to do it, but at the end of the day we're in a sim, so we can do what we want with this sort of thing. Let's try and regain somewhere near the centre line and just hope we can stop in time. I think we're going to be alright, aren't we? What do you reckon? So, let's try and sum this thing up then. It's got a nice exterior model. I wouldn't say it's exceptional, but it's very, very good. The price point is $39.99. So I wouldn't class it as expensive, but the thing is nowadays the expectations from simming have changed significantly. You know, a few years ago when we were P3D, lots of add-ons were 50, 60, 70 pounds. Nowadays we're kind of getting such good freeware with the sort of the yardstick has changed slightly. So $40, it's at the top end, I think, in terms of price. Having said that, you're getting a good aircraft for that money. So the exterior modelling is very nice. I do like it overall. I would say it's not the greatest, but it is very well done. As I say, the inside very, very nice overall. Lovely bit of 3D modelling. The systems are all good. There's some interesting systems. It's an aircraft full of character. The Autopilot system is nice and unique. The fact that you can integrate the GTN 750s if you wish is nice. The fuel computer is an interesting device. I have to be honest, it's not something I've got overly skilled at using. Nice touches in terms of what you can open and close. You can use the circuit breakers, so they all do what they should do in terms of turning stuff off. Lots of stuff to click on. So overall the interior is very, very good. I'm very happy with that. The level of detail when you scroll right in is really quite stunning. I mean, that's just a work of art. It's beautiful, that is. And then the handling and the flight characteristics. I think the best thing I can say is it seems to fly by the numbers. I've never flown a 414. I don't know what its stall characteristics are like, but I think it would be a bit more dramatic than just wallowing down. Now obviously we're not flying a single engine aircraft where you've got the prop flow going, the prop wash going over the tail. So I don't know what the handling characteristics would be like this, and in fact I don't know many pilots would necessarily have trained with stalling one of these. Generally speaking, in the UK when we train with twins, if we're doing stalls, we would generally go to the incipient stage, particularly if we're only single engine. But yeah, it's a nice aircraft. It's a very nice aircraft to fly, quite docile. So there we are, guys. I do think it's a very nice aircraft, and from my perspective it ticks a lot of the boxes that make me interested in flying something that's a bit different and a bit trickier, you know, something requiring some of that old pilot shizzle. In any case, hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, don't forget to tick like, share and subscribe. Massively helps me out with the channel in terms of its visibility, and until the next time, take care.